Now let's go to the schedule. Create a new sheet with a schedule sheet. We'll apply basic formatting, and I'm going to use example schedule data of the German Championship, and I'm going to import the data with the import range function. Import range makes it possible to basically mirror content from another spreadsheet to a specific spreadsheet. So if you have a multi-spreadsheet structure such as admin sheet, schedule sheet, map pooling sheet, it's good to use import range because otherwise you'd have to manually copy over data every time you change something. Apply a bit more formatting and we're good to go. Now back to the template sheet. We'll implement dynamic player names that change with the given match ID. We use a simple VLOOKUP for that, and you can actually see me manually count up the columns with the mouse, so if you do that yourself, you're not the only one. It's okay, everyone does that. And as with every feature you implement, make sure you test your stuff. Test your formulas for edge cases. It's good programming practice in general. I also make a data validation dropdown for the map winner, and implement the score counter with the countIf function, by just counting how many times a specific name appears in the map winner column. Now we go into probably the most complicated formula used in the ref sheet, which is the pick order. First we use an if function to hide if certain values are missing, or in this case if the first pick hasn't been entered yet. Then we use a VLOOKUP from the settings sheet to get the best of, since the pick order changes depending on the best of, which is determined by the stage. Since the pick order is always alternating players, except for the last map, we do -1 because, well, the final map, the tiebreaker, isn't picked by the player but it's set by the map pool. We then use the sequence function to generate a number sequence starting from 1 and ending at the best of -1. So in this case, if it's a best of 7, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and stop at there. Since every second number in the sequence is either odd or either even, we can apply the isOdd function to the sequence, so we get an alternating sequence of true or false. And we can map all odd numbers, in this case true, to the first pick, and all even numbers, in this case false, to the second pick. So we get first pick, second pick, first pick, second pick. Most of the time, especially with the pick order, you can make it simpler by just spreading everything out to multiple cells and multiple formulas. But I prefer keeping everything in a single cell because, I mean, if you already know how to do it, why not just do it? Finally, we use an array literal, which is the curly brackets, to add a new row at the bottom to the given sequence of first pick, second pick, to add the tiebreaker. As the tiebreaker isn't picked by a player but set as the final map of best of in case there's a tie. I'm already creating a second column for the map pool. You see what I mean when we get there. Now, onto the commands. For the MP commands, you should probably open up the tournament management commands on the OSU wiki, because no one remembers all the input parameters, especially for MPSet. Speaking of the MPSet command changes the room settings from the IRC chat, such as the aforementioned score mode, team mode, and room size. First, we use an if to hide if values are missing. You can see me skip that explanation because it will be used quite frequently. Can see me check if I got the order of the parameters and the settings correct. And use the join function to easily join the parameters together with a space. And then I actually made a mistake in the footage, where I only gave the room a size of 1, when it should actually be double the team size plus 1 for the ref, so in this case 3, or just to switch places if necessary. Next up is the MPAddRef command, which is used to give streamers or other referees access to the MP chat and MP commands. Access to the MP chat is usually denied to everyone who isn't in the room, and access to the MP commands is denied to everyone who didn't create the room. So if a streamer or a referee is added as a referee for the multiplayer room, the streamer, for example, can display the MP chat on stream, Or another referee can take over the match if you have to leave for some reason, and also use the MP commands. The only thing you really need is a simple VLOOKUP from the schedule. I'm using a fancy setup with array formula and an array literal so that I don't have to type out the formula twice. Of course, feel free to just copy the formula and just replace the number. If you see me type a formula and surround everything instantly with an array formula, then that's because I used the keybind Ctrl Shift and Enter. It surrounds the current formula with an array formula function. Again, use an if to check if there's even a need to display anything. Next up is the MPInvite command. It's used to invite players into the room, as multiplayer rooms created with MPMake can't be accessed in any other way, as they don't show up in the multiplayer list. It's just a simple string concatenation of player names again. I'm using an array literal so I don't have to type it out twice. Next up is the win by default dropdown. In case a player resigns or doesn't show up to the match, the winning player is entered in here. It's going to be used later in the match results for easy pasting into Discord. Next is the bans per player label, which serves as a simple reminder for the referee. It's made using a VLOOKUP to the settings sheet and string concatenation. Now the current score. As shown in the example in the introduction, it's supposed to serve as a simple string. A referee can simply paste into the MP chat to announce the current score and to announce the next pick. Instead of typing out the formula as I go, I instead make a layout first where I'm going to use placeholder variables for the player names or the score. Then I use muscle memory to paste in the variables. The muscle memory looks something like this. Quote, quote, left, ampersand, ampersand, left, space, delete, and then click on a cell to insert a reference. And now the same thing at normal speed. As you can see, it's quite efficient, and you build muscle memory like that over time the more you make spreadsheets. Make sure to test your features as you develop new things for your spreadsheet. Next is the next to pick label. It uses the sum function to add together both scores to know how many maps have been played so far. Alternatively, you might as well just use a count function or a count a function on the map owner column. It doesn't really matter, it's just the way I did it in the footage. Next, we use an index function to get the nth element from the pick order list. It's usual for a programming language to start counting at 0 instead of 1, but since Google Sheets is based on the row and column structure, which both start at 1 or a, most functions used in Google Sheets also start mentally counting at 1. So to compensate for that, we have to add 1 to the played maps count. Now, if we had 0 played maps, then it would take the first element of the pick order, and if we had 5 played maps, then it would take the 5th element of the pick order. Now I'm using conditional formatting to hide the MP link cell in red in case there's a value missing. Now on a usual ref sheet, more commands would be listed out on the right hand side, such as MP abort, MP start 10, MP host, or whatever you would really want. I'll skip them for now just for the sake of saving space for the match results later on when we need it. Feel free to enter new rows or commands as you see fit, and adjust the size of the match results cell later on if needed.
That's it for this episode. Next episode, we're going to cover the map pool, the import and the implementation on the template sheet, and we're going to cover the lengthy match results formula, which only looks intimidating but actually isn't. So stay tuned and see you next time.